story opens with a private detective named Walter, who appears to be in a hurry as he tries to get away from the crowded streets. He knows he's being watched, as several unfamiliar men have been following him from a distance. Walter has no idea who these men are or what they want from him. Trying not to draw any attention, he quietly slips a small package into a mailbox along the street. But just when it seems like he might have gotten away unnoticed, something unexpected suddenly happens. Walter is killed instantly when a blue van with no license plate deliberately runs him down. The devastating news hits his son, James, a highly trained commander in the Navy, especially hard. When James arrives at the morgue and sees his father's lifeless body lying there, he is completely shattered by what he sees.
Sorry for your loss.
Thanks.
James isn't the only one who is deeply affected by Walter's death. He also has a younger brother named Johnny, a police intelligence officer working in Oklahoma. Unlike James, Johnny is known for being reckless. He constantly bends the rules, ignores police protocol, and has a few strange habits that make him difficult to deal with. Eventually, even his girlfriend, Valentina, reaches her limit and decides to break up with him because she's completely fed up with his behavior. Later that afternoon, Johnny is sitting alone in the living room, clearly struggling with the breakup, when he suddenly receives a phone call from Lela, James' wife. She delivers some devastating news. Their father, Walter, was killed the previous night, and his funeral is scheduled for the following afternoon. Lela also tells Johnny that Walter's death wasn't an accident. He was deliberately struck by an unidentified vehicle in what appears to have been a hit and run.
Child psychologist, actually.
No, I'll be there for them.
And just as the phone call ends, Johnny suddenly finds himself surrounded by a group of Yakuza. They sneak up behind him and demand that he hand over the package that once belonged to his father, Walter. But Johnny genuinely has no idea what they're talking about, so without trying to play tough, he simply tells them the truth. Where is it, Walter's dead man? Whatever is inside that package must be extremely important. Maybe it contains a fortune, some sensitive information, or perhaps just a box of cold poodoo cakes. Who knows? Johnny keeps insisting that he has absolutely no clue where it is, and even after he politely begs the Yakuza to leave him alone, they only become more aggressive. One of them even proudly reveals his massive dragon tattoo, as if that's supposed to make Johnny cooperate. What Johnny doesn't realize, however, is that another Yakuza member is already waiting right outside the front door. The fight quickly spills into the living room, with Johnny still being surprisingly generous enough to give them one last chance to walk away and save themselves a trip to the hospital. But instead of taking the hint, one of the Yakuza members crosses the line. He grabs a photograph of Johnny's late mother and tears it apart right in front of him. That one move instantly changes everything. A few days later, the day of Walter's funeral finally arrives. Among those attending are several powerful gang leaders who had worked with Walter back when he was still alive. Not long after, Johnny shows up with a bruised face, a souvenir from his little encounter with the Yakuza the night before. After being apart for so long, the two brothers finally come face to face. But instead of looking happy to see each other, they barely exchange a warm glance. The truth is, James and Johnny haven't exactly been on good terms for years. They seem to disagree about almost everything. Even something as simple as chicken porridge can turn into an argument between them. Should it be mixed together or left untouched? Personally, what do you think? The ceremony then continues with Governor Mahu, a close relative and longtime associate of Walter, stepping forward to say a few words. To James and Johnny, Mahu is more than just a governor. They practically consider him an uncle. After honoring Walter and speaking about the contributions he made to the government, the family finally carries out the final farewell. Walter's ashes are taken out to sea and scattered across the water, marking the end of his life and the beginning of a mystery that is far from over. During lunch, Johnny brings up the local police investigation, pointing out that they still haven't managed to identify whoever was responsible for the hit and run that killed Walter. James, however, has already accepted his father's death and wants to move on. Johnny sees things differently. He strongly suspects that Walter wasn't killed by accident at all, but was deliberately targeted. Their disagreement eventually follows them all the way to the beach. James questions Johnny's theory, arguing that he has no real evidence to back it up. By this point, James is clearly fed up with his younger brother's constant troublemaking, but instead of giving up, Johnny takes his brother's criticism as a challenge. If no one else is willing to look into Walter's death, Johnny decides he'll investigate it himself. The next morning, Johnny heads over to his father's house, hoping to find anything that might shed some light on Walter's mysterious death. But when he arrives, he quickly realizes that someone has already been there before him. The entire place has been searched and turned upside down, as if whoever came in was desperately looking for something.
Holy Nobody help me!
The man Johnny recently beat up turns out to be someone named Pika. Johnny initially thought Pika was one of the people who had broken into Walter's house and stolen his belongings. But the truth is, Pika was actually one of Walter's most trusted associates. He was a skilled hacker and an expert in disguises, and from this point on, he agrees to help Johnny uncover the truth behind Walter's death.
Come here. It's fixed. You're welcome.
While Pika is still trying to deal with his injured nose, Johnny notices something strange about one of Walter's surfboards. The fin has been installed upside down. Curious, Johnny decides to fix it, but the moment he starts messing with it, something unexpected falls out from inside the board, a blueprint of a building. Meanwhile, James heads to the police station to check on the investigation into Walter's hit and run. Unfortunately, the sergeant tells him they haven't made much progress. The accident happened in a blind spot with no useful surveillance footage, making it extremely difficult for the police to identify the vehicle or its driver. For now, all James can do is wait and hope the investigators eventually find something.
Thanks for your time.
The only real clue the police have managed to find is Walter's wallet. Inside, they discover an old shopping receipt from Ulamart. But when they turn the receipt over, they notice something strange. Written on the back are 12 random words, including things like bell, bridge, ocean, napkin, gasoline, and several other phrases that seem to make absolutely no sense. At first, nobody can figure out what Walter was trying to say. Still thinking about Johnny's theory that their father may have been murdered, James decides to investigate the scene himself. While checking the area, he spots a security camera from a nearby shop that happens to be pointed directly toward the road where Walter was killed. James politely asks the shopkeeper if he can take a quick look at the footage. Unfortunately, the shopkeeper isn't exactly in the mood to cooperate. Instead, he gets aggressive and orders James to leave immediately. With no luck there, James heads over to Walter's apartment to search for another clue. By coincidence, Johnny and Pika are already there, using Pika's laptop to examine the mysterious blueprint they discovered inside the surfboard. They start going through the security footage, and what they see confirms Johnny's suspicion. The vehicle didn't accidentally hit Walter. The driver deliberately targeted him.
Oh, man.
Since the getaway vehicle had no license plate, Johnny asks Pika to run a search on everyone on the island who owns a van matching its description. He also tells Pika to dig up information on Walter's most recent clients before his death. Unfortunately, Walter never told Pika exactly who his clients were, so there's only so much information he can provide. On the way home, Johnny brings up the Yakuza attack from the other night. He explains that the men were specifically looking for an important package that once belonged to Walter. But before he can say much more, a Yakuza member suddenly rams their car from the side. The impact sends their vehicle rolling over, while Johnny manages to leap out toward the side of the road. James isn't so lucky. He ends up trapped inside with the Yakuza, who immediately open fire and start shooting at him. After surviving the attack, James and Johnny immediately take the flash drive containing the hit-and-run footage to the sergeant. But once the sergeant hears that the brothers have already had an encounter with the Yakuza, he strongly advises them to stop digging into the case. In his eyes, they're getting involved in something far more dangerous than they realize, and continuing the investigation could put both of them in serious danger. With some help from their younger brother, who works for the government, they manage to identify the mysterious blueprint. It turns out to be the design for a luxurious casino owned by a wealthy businessman named Marcus. There's just one problem: gambling establishments are illegal in Hawaii. This leaves the brothers wondering why Marcus would hire a private detective like Walter in the first place. If he simply wanted to get around the law, wouldn't bribing the right government officials have been much easier? The next day, Johnny receives a call from Pica. Apparently, Pica managed to convince the sergeant to let him access the records of people who own vans in the area. After going through the long list of names, one particular entry catches Johnny's attention: a Japanese name listed as Heisei Empor. Johnny isn't even sure whether it's a person's name or something else, but he immediately asks Pica to find out exactly who or what it is.
Hey, whoa, what?
Focus.
What? I'm right here.
I need you to find out what you can about this Hayashi imports. What's that?
Don't worry, I know the caterer.
Using Pica's connections, the brothers manage to get into Marcus's mansion by disguising themselves as catering staff. Luckily, Marcus happens to be hosting a private fundraising event for some of his wealthy business associates, giving James the perfect opportunity to get close to him. And there he is, Marcus, the businessman who may have a connection to Walter's mysterious death. But before James can even approach him, Johnny's attention is suddenly stolen by a beautiful woman walking past. Instead of staying focused on the mission, Johnny follows her outside. Her name is Monica, and as it turns out, she's actually Marcus's wife. When Monica hears that Walter is dead, she is genuinely shocked. She already knew him. Apparently, Walter had once been hired by Monica to investigate her husband because she suspected Marcus was secretly seeing another woman. Since the matter is extremely sensitive, Monica invites Johnny back to her apartment so they can talk privately. Meanwhile, James doesn't need to spend much time figuring out what Heisei Empor means. He accidentally finds a business card belonging to a Yakuza thug named Nakamura. And that's when the mystery finally starts to make sense. Heisei Empor isn't a person's name at all. It's actually the name of a Japanese company.
I know that you guys misplaced a blue van.
James carefully brings up the blue van that was used in the attack, hoping Nakamura might reveal something. Instead, Nakamura doesn't even bother hiding the truth. He openly admits that he ordered his men to eliminate Walter because the private detective had gotten involved in Marcus's business. But Nakamura already knows that James and Johnny aren't there just to ask questions. He realizes exactly why they've come. They're looking for revenge. The two brothers are then taken inside to meet Marcus, where they are questioned about why they've been digging into Walter's death. James explains that they simply want to know whether Marcus had anything to do with Walter's murder. Marcus denies having any involvement whatsoever. However, he admits one thing: Walter had been hired to keep an eye on Monica. And somehow the story gets even more ridiculous. Both Marcus and Monica claim that they were the ones who hired Walter for the exact same job. With neither side giving them a straight answer, James realizes they're getting nowhere. He decides to leave with Johnny and continue investigating on their own. Meanwhile, Johnny remembers Monica's invitation and heads to her apartment to meet her privately. But when he arrives, he is greeted by a horrifying sight. Monica is dead after falling from the 30th floor. As Johnny later discovers, Marcus was responsible for her death. Driven by jealousy, he believed Monica wasn't meeting Johnny to discuss Walter at all. He thought she was having an affair with him. Furious and disgusted by what happened, Johnny heads straight to Marcus's mansion, determined to confront him. But before he can settle the score,
Oh, yeah!
unfortunately, Johnny's reckless attitude gets him into trouble once again. Before he can do anything, one of Marcus's guards takes him down with a stun gun. Johnny expects the situation to get much worse, but surprisingly, the guards simply hand him over to the police on a minor theft charge. Luckily, Governor Mahu steps in and uses his influence to get Johnny released later that same day. When Johnny finally gets home, he receives a call from Valentina. She tells him that a package from Walter has just arrived at her government residence in Oklahoma. Inside is a USB drive. Johnny immediately suspects this could be the mysterious package the Yakuza have been desperately searching for. He tells Valentina to get on the next flight to Hawaii and bring the USB with her. When Valentina arrives at the airport, Johnny is there waiting for her. He immediately tries to win her back, but Valentina clearly isn't interested. She reminds him that she didn't come to Hawaii to reconcile. She's only there to deliver Walter's USB. On their way back, Pika runs into a problem while trying to access the drive. The USB requires 12 random phrases as a login password. That's when James remembers the 12 strange words they found written on the back of Walter's receipt. He quickly gives the list to Pika. Whether the USB really belonged to Walter or not, they are about to find out. But just as Pika is about to enter the password,
Oh my god!
and just when they think they're finally safe, a group of motorcycle-riding ninjas suddenly shows up. Marcus has sent them to take the USB by force. The attackers surround the car and try to break their way inside, turning the situation into complete chaos. After barely dealing with the motorcycle ninjas, James and Johnny suddenly have another problem. This time, Marcus's men arrive in a helicopter and start attacking them from above. Luckily, the brothers somehow activate their inner video game heroes, as if they've just equipped a malefic roar and a blade of despair. With their aim somehow becoming ridiculously accurate, they manage to take down the attackers and survive the ambush. Once the chaos finally settles, they waste no time opening the USB. And what they discover is huge. The drive contains financial records showing millions of dollars in transactions. The sender, Marcus, and the recipient, Governor Mahu. Suddenly, everything starts to make sense. Marcus had been secretly bribing Governor Mahu to keep his illegal casino business running without interference. And the governor they trusted as a family friend may have been part of the conspiracy all along.
Peter Mahoy, no fucking. Bro.
Everybody knows him. He's the governor.
This is where the truth finally comes to light. Without Marcus or Monica knowing, Walter had actually been working for both of them at the same time. Each one had hired him to investigate the other's suspected affair. But while digging into their personal lives, Walter stumbled across something far more dangerous than a cheating scandal. He discovered the blueprint for Marcus's illegal casino, along with financial records showing millions of dollars being used as bribes between Marcus, Governor Mahu, and the Yakuza. Once Marcus realized that Walter had uncovered the evidence and had already copied the files onto a USB drive, he knew he couldn't let the detective stay alive. That's why Walter was targeted. Not long after, James suddenly realizes that Lela and his younger brother are missing from the house. Then his phone rings. It's Marcus. He has taken James's family hostage and gives him a simple ultimatum: hand over the USB or his family dies. But James knows that giving Marcus the USB won't guarantee their safety. Even if he hands over the evidence, Marcus could still eliminate them to erase every loose end. So instead of negotiating, James decides to fight back. He takes Johnny to a weapons storage facility, where they stock up on heavy weapons before heading straight for Marcus's mansion that night. After taking out 2 guards stationed at the entrance, the brothers split up to cover more ground. Johnny sneaks in from the back while James walks straight through the front entrance. And that's when the real assault begins. And that's when things start getting ridiculous. James tries to take out one of the guards, but his shot doesn't do anything because the window is bulletproof. Instead of immediately calling for backup, the guard casually solves the problem himself by opening the window. Meanwhile, Johnny comes up with his own distraction. He starts shooting at a parked car, drawing the guards away from their positions. Then Johnny cuts the power to the entire property. With the lights suddenly going out, Marcus orders one of his men to check the backup generator. But Johnny has already taken care of that too. He cuts the generator cables, leaving the assistant completely confused. Things get even worse when he discovers that all of the guards have already been taken down. Johnny then grabs the assistant's radio and sends Marcus a very direct warning. He tells him to stay away from the Walter family if he wants to live. Realizing that most of his men have been wiped out, Marcus panics and decides to run. He orders Nakamura to deal with the situation instead. Meanwhile, James has just reached the front of the property when dozens of Yakuza suddenly appear, armed to the teeth and ready for a full-scale fight. But James doesn't seem too worried. With what looks like an Athena shield and a little help from his imaginary glowing 1 passive, he tears through the attackers one after another. Even when one of the Yakuza manages to get a clear shot at him, James is already prepared with his signature counterattack. After taking down the remaining guards, James and Johnny finally locate Lela and the younger brother who have been held captive inside the mansion. But strangely, Marcus and the rest of his men are nowhere to be found. Once the hostages are safely freed, Nakamura suddenly appears behind James and launches a surprise attack. Even though Nakamura is highly skilled with a samurai sword, it still isn't enough to match James. After all, James is a highly trained Navy commander with years of combat experience. While James searches the mansion for Marcus, the story shifts to the nearby docks. Johnny discovers that Marcus is trying to escape. Johnny briefly considers using his gun, but when he calls Marcus a coward, Marcus's pride gets the better of him. Instead of running, Marcus turns around and accepts Johnny's challenge to fight him hand-to-hand. At first, Johnny assumes Marcus will be an easy opponent. He quickly realizes he was wrong. Marcus is surprisingly skilled in close combat and manages to push Johnny to his limits. But knowing he still has unfinished business, Marcus decides to fight dirty and grabs a metal hook to gain the advantage. Then, just when things reach a critical point, Marcus finally admits the truth. He confesses that he was the one who ordered Walter and Monica's deaths. He also openly admits that he bribed Governor Mahu to keep his illegal casino operation running smoothly. With the truth finally exposed, Marcus's entire scheme begins to collapse. And just like that, Marcus finally meets his end when the explosives go off. Johnny, meanwhile, ends up falling into the ocean, leaving everyone wondering whether he actually survived. Fortunately, it doesn't take long for James to find him and pull him out of the water just in time. As for Governor Mahu, his luck runs out as well. He is arrested and charged with money laundering and conspiracy to murder Walter. At first, Mahu tries to deny everything, but his excuses don't get him very far. The sergeant already has enough evidence to bring him down, including the financial records recovered from Walter's USB drive and the testimony from James and the others. In the end, all the chaos brings about one unexpected outcome. Valentina finally decides to forgive Johnny and accepts him for who he is. Even more importantly, the relationship between Johnny and his older brother James becomes stronger. After everything they've been through, the two brothers finally learn to put their egos aside and work together. And sometimes that's the biggest lesson of all. Family may fight, argue, and drive each other crazy, but when everything falls apart, they're still the ones standing beside you. A different perspective on the film. One of the most interesting things about this movie is the adrenaline and emotional intensity it creates. Seeing a father lose the people he loves gives the story a strong emotional foundation, while his determination to seek revenge keeps the audience engaged from beginning to end. So what do you guys think? Did you enjoy this action-packed movie filled with courage, revenge, and adrenaline? And before we wrap things up, I want to be completely honest with you. I'm using an AI voice for this narration. My English speaking skills aren't quite fluent yet, and I'm still working on my pronunciation and intonation. Sometimes, my natural voice might make certain words difficult to understand, so I decided to use an AI voice to make the narration clearer and more enjoyable to listen to. I hope you don't mind, and I definitely hope nobody takes it the wrong way. I'm simply trying to find the best way to share these movie stories with all of you while I continue improving my English. Most importantly, we're all here for the same reason, to enjoy great movies and exciting stories together. So I'd really appreciate your feedback. Let me know in the comments how satisfied you are with this narration and what you think I could improve. Your criticism, suggestions, and support would mean a lot to me. And if this story caught your attention, I highly recommend watching the full movie yourself. That way you can experience the action, emotion, and twists firsthand, and see whether the story is as satisfying as it sounds in this recap. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next movie recap.